And normally we would have him, preach and do all the things, but we had, of course, reschedule our senior Sunday, but we're glad we're able to have him talk to us in this class, and it's an exciting work. We have been out there. Several in our congregation have been out there to see the work, and we took a group out a couple of years ago. That was just a wonderful trip, a wonderful work. The spirit and the people are just, you fall in love with them. And so full of life and youth and so much prospects to serve the Lord and advance His kingdom in the Phoenix area and on the reservation there. And so I don't want to take any more of Josh's time. He's going to be giving us the report, but we're thankful that you're here, Josh. Okay, it's yours.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate the introduction and the opportunity with all of you. I wanted to say thank you for this congregation. For those of you that want to keep up with the kids, they are now 17. Leah is going into her junior year. Alyssa is 15, going into her freshman year. And Elena is 13. Josiah is 11. But a lot has happened since last year, but thankfully, God is still the same. And we want to give Him thanks because He's the one who brings us hope and joy and confidence during the most uncertain of times. And we are also grateful because people have lost jobs. There's been a cutback in a lot of different areas, and we know congregations have struggled, but you guys have supported us through all of this, and we want to say thank you. We appreciate this congregation. We know that we're in your prayers. We know that there was a mission trip that was planned this coming fall, and it just with all that's going on, it's made it difficult. But that's what we love about you guys is you don't want to just send money. You want to be there. You want to be involved with it as well. So thank you guys for all that you do. We keep you in our prayers, and we want to continue to thank God for you. In spite of all that's going on, God is at work. And I'm not going to go over the last couple years. It's been too long since we've been here. But what I wanted to share with you is just how God has been at work during the pandemic there in Salt River. And I know that He's been at work here as well. But if you think about the coronavirus, the New York State, I think that hit the news. They were talking about how hard hit New York was. Their infection rate was about 2%. On the Navajo Nation, it was almost 3.5%. And so they've had up to date about 9,000 infections and over 430 deaths. And if they said if the Navajo Nation was a state, they would have been number one easily. They have been hard hit. They said that there's just multiple factors that happened. One of them was that you have sometimes multiple families living in one household. You also had pre-existing conditions, and diabetes is almost at epidemic levels on the Navajo Nation amongst the people there. Anytime you're dealing with poverty, sometimes the nutrition isn't as high, and so your immune system doesn't fight it off as well. Then you've also got hospitals that could be far away, that there's limited health access. And then, like, even if you have a grocery store, they weren't having some of the cleaning supplies or some of the food items that you would go there, and it wasn't available. So there were just a lot of factors that kind of came together. And because you're saying, man, it's so remote, it's way out there. How could this place that's so far out be hit so hard? And so it just seems like those are some of the factors that came about. And so I just wanted to share with you some of the things that we've tried to do to help out with that. But just like everybody else, we shut down from March until about the end of May. And we're doing something similar to you guys. We just spread out our chairs. Everybody has to wear a mask. And as of right now, we're just meeting Sunday morning. We're not Sunday night and Wednesday night, we do the Zoom and Facebook Live, those kinds of things that Braden was talking about as far as uncomfortable and having to just spread out and do it a different way. So even though the church building has been shut down, the church is not. And that's what we're excited about, is how God opens doors even in areas that we wouldn't have anticipated it. The first time that we made an effort to go help was a little church called Burnt Corn Mountain Church of Christ. It was a church plant maybe about 10 years ago, and it's basically one family and mostly made up of women. And they gave us a call and said, we need some supplies. We're having a hard time getting supplies. So we said, all right, let's load up, because even in the city, even though we're in Phoenix area, there were still shortages or limits on what you could get. So we were going from store to store to store and just loaded up and took it up to them. And we met in Flagstaff. We didn't even go on the reservation. We met in Flagstaff, Arizona, and they drove over, and we filled them up with a van load of stuff. And it was really good, because we get a chance to see just how this family. You can see some of the family here, and they came over and were just so excited. And the lady in the pink shirt, Rosita, she's the one that when she the Clorox wipes at Costco, and they sell them in like a bundle of 3 or something like that. She was holding them, almost like hugging them, and she goes, do you know how hard it is to find these? And so we were like, yeah, it is tough. Even in Phoenix, it's tough. But you could just see an appreciation of they were extremely excited to get those. And this couldn't have happened really without Jeff and Kelly Lovelace. They're school teachers in Columbia, Tennessee, and they've had a desire to possibly do mission work. She had come out and helped with the Vacation Bible School before, but he has not. And so there was some encouragement, God working on them, and they said, you know what? We're school teachers, and we're going to take 6 weeks of our summer, and we want to come help you guys. And it was quite the deal, because they knew that the Navajo Nation was getting hit really hard with the COVID, and so they've got 2 small children, and they said, you know what, we're going to go. And I told them, I said, man, we're not even meeting. When we were making calls, I said, we're not even meeting. I don't even know what's going to happen. Well, they said, well, just come anyway and see what happens. Sure enough, they were shopping almost 5 to 6 hours a day to help us get the supplies. And then they would take it to the building, unload it, organize it. They were trying to get it all separated into cleaning supplies, dry good foods, paper products. And they would do all of these things. Lots of work. I mean, I told them, that's one of the reasons. I have to make a confession. I didn't want to open ourselves up to go help with the Navajo Nation, because I just knew that congregations would say, hey, here you go. We want to help. We want to get behind it. We see a need. And I knew that we would have more money and more supplies, that it was going to become basically a full-time job for me. And so I held off, and then the Burnt Corn Mountain called us, and I'm like, okay, it's time to get started. God is kind of kicking us along here, and but you know what? He also provided Jeff and Kelly Lovelace, and man, they worked. I mean, I asked them, they said, what's the first thing you're going to do when you go back to Tennessee? And they said, sleep. So God put them to work. I mean, they really put in a lot of effort, and we're so thankful for them. But while they were there, we'll talk about Carrie in just a minute. Carrie and her husband, Sullivan, but they just got married in like around January, February, somewhere in that neighborhood. They just got married. They've got a son, Tyler, that's about 12 or 13 years old. But they got to see Carrie be baptized into Christ, which we'll talk about a little bit later. There were two other trips that we made. We got to go to Kayenta Mini Farms and Pinon again. We actually had several trips with them to Pinon, 3 ultimate trips there. But you can see here, this is right in front of our building. And what we did is we basically had a flatbed trailer, bought some plywood, and just started trying to load it up. And you know, the reservation is bigger than the state of West Virginia. So Pinon, they were really asking for cleaning. Everybody was asking for cleaning supplies. But they really wanted paper products. And we had sent water, but they were like, water was okay, but they really wanted paper products and cleaning supplies. So the next trip, we really had a lot of paper products and a lot of cleaning supplies, a lot of dry food. And Mini Farms said, do you guys have any water? And we're like, oh, man. We don't have any water this time, but so it just varied what different places were wanting, because Mini Farms said that their water it tastes horrible, and the grocery store had a limit on water, and it was interesting how just different parts of the reservation wanted or needed different items. And you can see right here in the front, this is 25-pound bag of flour. And I know that a lot of people don't buy it that big, but on the reservation, when you make fry bread and you're making your own tortillas, then you buy it in these. And Bluebird flour is the brand. I mean, that's the one we grow up with on the reservation. And so we had that, laundry detergent and all kinds of stuff that my trailer tires are squished down, you know, and I could kind of hear it like, oh, I think I can, you know. So, but it was really, you had to do Tetris, you know, to make it all fit just right. But you can see there, we just loaded up, and we made 4 trips total. This is the group from Kayenta and Pinon. We met them again in Flagstaff, because the reservations have been on curfew since March. I don't know if Tulsa did a curfew. Phoenix, we did it once. We did a curfew once in Phoenix. But the Navajo reservation, they've had a curfew since March. Every day you have to be off the roads at 8 o'clock. You have to be at your place, at home. Every gas station, every grocery store, every restaurant is closed down by 8 o'clock. I don't care if you're a tourist and you've been driving 3 hours and you get to Kayenta and you're about to run out of gas, there is not a store, not a pump that was open. They shut down everything since March. And they also, for about 2.5 months, maybe 3 months, they also had a weekend lockdown. So Friday night until Monday morning, so it was a 57-hour lockdown. You were not allowed to be out on the roads, and they would have cops parked on the roads. I mean, if you were a tourist just driving through, those kinds of things, but for the most part, everybody had to be in their homes. And so you talk about restrictions, feeling restrictions, but they were seeing just epidemic levels of all these people that were dying. In fact, the people from Pinon, they had 8 people in their family die, either nieces, nephews, uncles, somebody. The youngest that they said died was 12. I know that was rare, but they had a 12-year-old that died. And again, what was making it challenging, even here, is you can't go to the hospital to visit. You can't go to the funerals and hug and grieve with each other. And so it just really made it tough. But Dan Keel is a preacher in Kayenta, and this is his wife and their grandkids, Jeff and Kelly, that we went with. And so we took a huge load and then just divided it, Pinon and Kayenta, to help out there. You can see this is loading up the truck from Pinon. We loaded them up. And then the other trip was to Mini Farms, again, a very small remote church. We took 2 trailer loads there. We took a trailer load And then the preacher is Ben Begay. That's him and his wife and their kids here with Jeff and Kelly. And we unloaded and got a chance. And then we went on to Kayenta. All of these areas are about 5 hours from where we live in Phoenix. So we're driving about 5 hours up there. But this is Alfred Jean. When we were in Kayenta, I don't know if you guys remember his story, but he used to be a bootlegger because it's illegal to sell alcohol on the reservation. And so for a long time, he was a bootlegger and big into drugs and alcohol. And he became a Christian, and his nickname was Al Capone, is what people used to call him, you know. But he's now been a brother in Christ for over, I don't know, it's been 10 plus years. And so this is his hogan in the back, you know, the one-room house that you kind of see. It's an octagon shape, and it's one room that he lives in. And so we took him some supplies there, and it was good to meet up with him again. This summer we also had a group from Concord Road Church of Christ in the Nashville area. They usually come out for our reservation church camp. Just like it sounds like you guys, church camps were canceled, all of that. They have been coming out to the reservation for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years to help out with our church camp on the reservation. And when everything got canceled, they said, well, would you guys be willing to let us come to Phoenix? We still would like to do something. Even if we're picking up trash, we don't care. We just want our kids to go do something. So we said, all right, let's go ahead and bring them out. And they had a lot of people back out, even at the airport. So they had groups that just kind of kept dwindling down. And then they got to the airport, and the airport said, remember, if you guys do get sick out there, there will be a 14-day quarantine before you will be able to get back. And so some people left from the airport. I think they had a couple people that left right from the airport. So we had 14 people that came out from Concord Road, and they helped us do a vacation Bible school. And this was our only spiritual event that we had kind of as a group. But it turned out well. Their teenagers ended up helping to lead the vacation Bible school, and it was small. I mean, we had maybe 4 or 5 little kids, and we did that Monday through Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12, and then in the evenings from 6 to 8, we had a teen youth rally. You know, we kind of got the teens, and so the teens would help with this in the morning. And then in the evenings, they had their own focused singing and worship and Bible studies and all of those kinds of things. But it turned out to be a great week, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. But if you can see right here, this black line right here, you might not recognize this new area. I think I've shown you pictures in the past of when we started meeting in the strip mall. But last year, we actually extended, and we started renting the space next to us. So we tore out the wall. There was a big wall right there, and we tore all of that out, and it allowed us to add 2 bathrooms, and over here in the corner is another classroom, and then we were able to add about 50 chairs to our assembly area, which has been nice now because you got to spread out. But we can now seat probably 130 chairs in our auditorium, and we've got more classroom space, more restroom space. But I just wanted to just briefly show that to you guys right there. But this is, you can see the kids. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 or 7 every day for the little kids. And so it turned out to be a good week there. The theme was excavate. Let's dig for the truth. Let's dig for God. And you can see Josiah and youth minister's son, and you know, everybody's wearing masks, and they had a good time there. But Evan Totacini, you guys he came here one time, and him and his wife went to Bear Valley, and they've been with us 3 years now. And this is Ramey. So she's about a year old right in that neighborhood. So Ramey's a year old. They've got 3 girls now. If you remember, Evan lost their firstborn son when they first became Christians. And so they've got 3 girls now and been very blessed. And this is the youngest right there. So here's the teens. They got together and they would sing for about an hour. So basically the way it worked is because of Zoom and all of that, they were getting some of the top speakers, Kirk Brothers and David Shannon and some of these guys that speak at youth rallies. They had them on Zoom, and they would speak for about 20, 30 minutes, and then they would sing for almost an hour, and then one of the teen youth would actually do another devotional. So it was about 2 hours long, and that went Sunday night through Thursday night. And Aaliyah's best friend is Brenna, and she came every night. She usually goes to a community church and goes with us to church camps and all of those things. And she said, I think this week was even better than church camp. And that was huge because usually they come back from church camp just flying high. You know, they just are a spiritual high coming back from church camp. And for her to say that this week was better than church camp, we thought, wow. I don't know if it's just because we're so removed from everything. There had been no fellowship, there was nothing. It's sort of like when you haven't eaten for a long time and you eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you're like, that was the best peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You know, sometimes it just hits the spot. And maybe that's what happened, but nevertheless, it really was faith building, and we appreciated it. You know, we said we're going to be together, and if any of us are sick, we're all going to get sick together. And thankfully, we didn't have anything happen. We were grateful for that. This is them helping us with the food because we had so much in donations. I think we had around $10,000 plus of donations with food. And so we were buying big bags of rice, big bags of beans. And so we got those teenagers, lots of hands, started filling up bags so that we could split it up into smaller sizes. And you can see that they did a fantastic job when you have that many people working. And so we flat put them to work. You can see all of the lines and just setting it all up and trying to figure out how we were going to load that and then get it hauled up and then distribute it out to the different congregations up there. Spam is a big one. They said that you could not find canned meat, protein, and those kinds of things was hard to come up with. Again, some of the people on the reservation don't have electricity, so it's hard to store meat. So if you get canned meat, then you can have some kind of protein for later on. So Spam, believe it or not, couldn't find it anywhere. The little Vienna sausages and all of the manwich meat and all those in cans, just couldn't hardly find it. And so ramen noodles, all of those things. Again, kids are out of school. So normally the schools are feeding them, but here they are, they're having to feed them and limited supplies. So you can see just very blessed with all that we had and a lot of help. The kids put together signs that said Navajo Nation Relief, COVID Relief, and we put it on the sides of the trailers, and people would honk when we were going by, and they would wave, you know, and say, hey, good job, we appreciate what you guys are doing. And so we put that on the side of the trailers, and it turned out to be a good opportunity to just give God the glory. And this is the final trip that we did a couple of weeks ago. And again, Kelly and Jeff did this. We decided to go up to the Apache reservation because we had taken it to different churches on the Navajo reservation. We had made donations to the Hopi reservation. But the White Mountain Apache reservation, the Lord's church does not exist there. And so we said, well, here's an open door. Let's just try it. Let's just see what happens. And there's a couple people in our church that they have relatives up there. So they called their relatives and they said, hey, we're going to bring some supplies. Could you guys use them? And they're like, oh, yeah, we could. So we said, what we're going to do is we're going to separate these, and some of them will say food, Some of them will say cleaning supplies, and we'll just separate it out. And you can see on here that we stapled this paper. Well, what it was is we offered these Bible correspondence courses, and then we put our card on there just to see what would happen. Let's just see. And so again, this happened 2 weeks ago. We haven't gotten any contacts yet, but they were so relieved and thankful that we just started setting out the water, the laundry detergent, the bleach. And these are the people from the reservation that actually showed up to help us hand it out. We just parked in a parking lot, and then cars just started lining up, and we just started helping that way. Again, these are the people that were there. This is a sister in Christ. She has not been real faithful, but she moved to the Apache reservation, so we're trying to work through her and maybe get back through her. And one of our sisters in Salt River, this is her mom. So Tia and Reggie Totacini, this is her mom. But anyway, Velda, she had contacted them and told them that we'd be coming out and donating and trying to help out. And let me go back one. Anyway, the council guy, kind of the leadership guy, the mayor of the little town, I mean, it's really tiny. And you could tell this is a little bit more poverty than some places. You've got the main road, and you've got a road that goes 50 miles to this little community called Sibicu, and that's it. There's not a through road. Like, you have to just go 50 miles to that community, and that's it. And there's really nothing there. So you could tell there was a lot more poverty there from the other places that we donated. These guys were really struggling to get some food, and so they were extremely grateful. The leader of that community said that we were the first, and up to that point, only group, not just church, but group overall that had helped. And Velda, she's the one that told him that the Church of Christ was going to come out and help. We had signs on the side of the trailer. I gave him my card. I said, we're from the Salt River Church of Christ down in Mesa. And I video cameraed him. I said, would you like to say anything? And I didn't get it on here, but I was wanting to get that on here. And he said, we just want to thank the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We want to thank you guys for coming and helping out. And we know that the Mormon group is good. And, he was talking about this. And so I had to stop. I let him finish his deal, but afterwards I told him, I was like, hey, we're actually Christians, we're not Mormons. And but as I thought about it, I got to saying, you know what? It just shows how foreign. They have never even heard of a Church of Christ. When they heard Church of Christ, they were thinking Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They don't even know what a Church of Christ is. It is so foreign to them. And so Evan and I have been thinking, like, man, you know what? This could be a real open door. If we're the only ones that have ever even gone there, then we gave them a little correspondence course. Maybe we'll take another trip up there, see if they might be open for a Bible study. We can just see. It's about 2 hours, 2.5 hours from Phoenix. So keep that in your prayers. It's just something to think about, and to think of going into kind of virgin territory that they don't even know. It's really interesting. This is Terry Lawrence. He's from Fort Defiance, again, on the Navajo reservation. And him and his wife, they preached there in the Navajo Nation capital. He was one of our first converts. He was our first convert in Kayenta in 2003. And now he's preaching and doing a great job. But they came down to Phoenix and had a truckload. We filled them up full of supplies, and got to talk with them for a little while. This is Peter Yukich. Peter has been with us for the last 2 years. He's been a school teacher. He graduated out in Virginia, moved out, got a job, and started teaching. But you talk about a servant, this guy serves. anything I ask him to do, he'll do it. You know, if I told him I need every pebble picked up off the sidewalk, he'd go do it without complaining, and it would be spotless. This guy works and is very dedicated. He's done Bible studies. He's preached for us. He's a good song leader. Just picks up people, anything and everything. Well, we've been encouraging him to go to preaching school, and so he decided that he was going to start. So he is starting at Bear Valley this week or next week. So we're very encouraged about that. Hate to lose him because he's such a hard worker, but at the same time, we know that God can do some great things. Get him some more skills, get him equipped a little bit more. So he is searching for support, if that's something that you guys want to think about. And he doesn't live on much. I mean, this guy, just to show you how frugal he is, he moved to Phoenix in June. I think he moved to Phoenix in June for teacher orientation. And he started worshiping with us. Well, he had contacted us 6 months before to do his research on which church he was going to meet with. I don't know very many 20-year-olds or 21-year-olds that do that. But anyway, he was researching 6 months ahead to see where he was going to worship. And then when he came, he was worshiping with us. And I said, hey, where are you staying at? He said, oh, out in Apache Junction, about 30 minutes outside of town. I'm like, oh, okay. And then after a while, you know, a couple weeks go by, and where at in Apache Junction are you staying out there? He said, at a KOA. And he was sleeping in a campground in his tent. Now, you're like, that's not a big deal, except remember, this is Phoenix in July at about 105, 109. And he's sleeping out there because he doesn't want to pay for a place yet. He doesn't have a place. And so we're like, what are you doing? You know, come stay at our house, you know? And so he did that. But it just shows his attitude. It just shows the type of person. And so he's extremely frugal with what he does, but he does need some support for his room and board and some of those things. During this COVID, we also had a restoration. You know, it's gotten the attention of some people that are saying, you know what? Death could be on the horizon. This could catch some attention. And Patty is one of those. She's a sister in Christ, maybe 2 years old in her faith. And for about a year, she has fallen away. And this caught her attention, and she said, you know what? I'm ready to come back to the Lord. And she repented, and part of that was she got married to Kaisa, and we're very excited about him. He's been studying, and Evan Totacini did the premarital counseling and the wedding ceremony, and now they're open to more studies, and so we're excited about that. Patty's sister-in-law is Carrie. So this is Patty's brother. Patty's brother, Sullivan, and his wife, Carrie. They were just married, like I said, about 6 months ago. And Carrie, during this time, she has a lot of health problems, and it's gotten her attention. And she said, I don't think I'm right with the Lord. And so we studied with her, and she was baptized a couple of weeks ago. So Jeff and Kelly were able to see a wedding. They were able to see a baptism, a restoration. You know, they were there when it was 117 degrees. We had wildfires. They got to go to the reservation. You know, it was great. It was a great week. And so we were able to say, you know what? God has been at work. And when we welcomed Jeff and Kelly, we had sand volleyball, and so we were able to get out and enjoy a little bit of time with them. But, you know, we want to ask for prayers. We want to continue to pray for the Navajo Nation, the Apache Reservation, a lot of these areas that have been hard hit, that perhaps this is an open door. You know, maybe this is a way that we can get our foot in the door, and God will continue to use us as we at Salt River are losing some of our strongest workers, like Peter going to Bear Valley. But Wayne and Susan Floyd, they're in their late 70s, and they were there from the beginning with us. They're going to be moving to Las Vegas to be with their son. and they've been huge. They've been a huge part of our church plant. So we are losing some people, but it's amazing how God continues to bring more to fill the void there, and other people step up and rise to the occasion. So I don't know how much time I have, but does anybody have questions or comments or anything else that wasn't quite clear? All right. Nothing. Well, again, want to say thank you to this congregation. We're grateful that God has brought us together. We're grateful for you guys' heart, your attitude, and just look forward to being able to work together as we strive forward. Amen. Thank you, guys.